This is using the quadrant method to draw. I'm going to be recreating a classic Ed Hardy tattoo for you. So I'm using 9 by 12 paper and I've measured the center, so 4.5 and then 6. And then I have my reference, which is 4 by 5. So it's the same proportions as my paper. And then when I get started, I want to cover up all of it but one quadrant because I just want to focus on one quadrant at a time. So just as a review, remember this is just a modified version of a grid. So some people will grid this up into multiple squares or rectangles, or even I like the diamond method. But for now, we're just going to practice with the quadrant. So I'm going to be looking at just one part of my picture. I'm going to use my pencil to measure the angles to make sure my angle's correct. I'm going to be looking at the negative space as well as the positive space, and then the pieces of the design in relation to other pieces. So if the heart ends here, then I know this other part needs to end here. If I'm looking at that leaf, the tip of it ends about in the middle. So I'm always checking and doing things in relation one to another. And then I also like to flip my paper around a lot as I'm doing this. This is a benefit of drawing from a paper reference, is I can flip my paper around and look at it in different angles. And then sometimes that will help me see if something is off. So I'm going to speed up this tutorial. This took me about 20-25 minutes to draw, so make sure you're taking your time. So when I move on to the next, I just refold my reference and I flip it around. And then I know sometimes I'll fold it where I can kind of see a little bit of the other quadrant just so I make sure my lines meet. And then it's just the same process. I'm going to try to break it apart looking at the negative space, using my pencil to measure the angles. And then I'm also drawing really light, so when I erase it, it won't be hard to erase. But I'm constantly comparing and measuring and turning it around and looking to get it as accurate as possible. All right, for the third one, this one is a little more challenging because it has that skull and there's a lot of curves in there. And then as you notice, I will do the letters last. I didn't want to mess with it now until I had the whole thing drawn. So it's however you want to do it. But you can see I'm trying to get that curve right. So I'm looking at both quadrants to make sure it's in the right spot. So you can look at the whole thing if you want and then go back and forth. Then you can see I'm kind of looking and I'm just doing the outside and then I'll go back in and then I'm fixing it. So as I get it where I want, I'll draw a little bit darker, but I'm drawing really light so I can erase. And you want to try to have confident lines, not too hairy lines. But again, that comes with practice. But you can see in this demo how I do things wrong and I erase and I fix it. So don't feel like you have to rush. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. Just really take your time, measure, stand back, look at your work, make sure it's correct, and then ask me for help in class if needed. But these next two quadrants are probably the most difficult out of all of them. And you can see as you watch that I do some erasing and some adjusting as we go along. All right, so I'm getting to the end. So you can see I'm adjusting, I'm erasing, I'm fixing. And then last I will add in the words. So I wanted to get the whole thing kind of laid out the way I wanted, making sure it was correct before I did the lettering. Alright, so I'm just adding some finishing touches. So this is my light outline with pencil. Before you turn it in, I would like you to use a Sharpie pen, a black pen, any kind of black marker that you like, pen, and outline your lines so it looks a little more polished, a little bit more finished. So here is my example I went over with pen. Now, if you want to take your work up a level and be expert level, you can choose markers or color pencils, and then also add color to your work. So you might need to Google the original work to get an idea of what colors to use. But you can see mine here. It's not perfect to the original, but it's pretty close. And I use alcohol ink markers, so you can use whatever you want to add color. So I can't wait to see how much better your drawing gets once you learn this method and learn about breaking shapes apart. I can't wait to see your work. Good job.